Hello. Today we are still doing communication models and we are looking at the second type of communication model, the convergence model. Now, if linear models are a straight line, convergence models can be seen as a circular model, which means there is a back and forth between the sender and receiver. So this applies more to conversation style communication, where we take into account feedback and give and take and back and forth. So convergence models are very good to explain and understand how communication is continuous. So when you're having a conversation, as you're talking, you are receiving feedback from the person that you're talking to. And then when you stop talking, the other person takes over and you start sending feedback to them. So the transactional nature of communication is shown. We see the transaction. It also shows how meaning is negotiated. So we spoke about in an earlier session how meaning is not static. There isn't only one meaning for every single thing. Sometimes we have to work with the other person to make sure we understand the same thing by the message we're sending. So when I say work hard, what do I actually mean? Do you understand the same thing that I do? So convergence models show how we can negotiate meaning. And in convergence models, emphasis is given to feedback. So we've spoken about the importance of feedback, and these communication models take feedback into account. And finally, the sender and receiver roles are not fixed. So they are not static. So you might send a message, but as you're the receiver is also sending messages back to you in the form of non-verbal feedback. So as you are sending a message, you're also receiving the messages of feedback. Now, the feedback in that case is not as emphasized or as important as the main message, but you're still being a sender and receiver at the same time. And then once you stop talking, the receiver now turns into the sender when they reply with their own message, and you become the new receiver. At the same time, you are providing feedback, generally non-verbally. So the roles are not so clear-cut. So I would like to show you two examples. The first is Schramm's model. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. That's my best guess. Please do not worry about this. This is part of the bigger model, so don't worry about it. But I just wanted you to be able to see that it is a big model. But the part that we are interested in is this part over here. So first things first, you can see this is not a straight line. Also, let's start here. Person A. Person A starts off as an encoder. So remember we spoke about the 7 points of communication. One of the points is encoding messages into symbols. So putting messages into symbols, and the most common symbol we use is words. So when you encode a message, you take your thoughts and you put them into words, for example. So you encode your thoughts into symbols that will then be sent. So the message is the encoded message, will be sent to the receiver. Now, the receiver will decode your message, so they will understand the symbols used. So you take your thoughts, you encode them into words, you send the words through a message to person B decodes the words and then interprets the words. So if you say, so I say, try hard. So I've got an idea in my head and I choose the symbols try hard to be my message. So I encode my thoughts into that message, send it to you. You decode the words, try hard. Okay, you know what those mean. Now you have to interpret them. And as you interpret them, you come to the realization that you're not entirely sure what I mean by try hard. So you now have to encode that thought into words. So you encode that thought into the words, what do you mean? And you send that message to me. I decode the words, what do you mean? Okay, I interpret that to mean you haven't understood my message. Now I have to become the encoder again. And I have to say, well, for example, you should spend 2 hours a day working on varsity work. And I send that message to you, you decode it, so you understand what the words mean, you interpret them. Now you have another thought and you encode them. And you become the encoder, you send the message to me 2 hours a day just on APCT. So I need to decode that, interpret that, and then I need to encode another message. No, 2 hours in total on all your subjects. And you decode that, you interpret that, and you want to provide feedback. Okay, I understand. I decode that, I interpret that, and the message has been received and understood. We've negotiated the meaning and we are both on the same page. So that is how a convergent model works. Now, if you want to see what I mean about communication can be complicated and you can spend your whole life studying it, this is Barnum's transactional model of communication. You won't be learning this version at all. This is the version that we found useful. Now, this communication model shows how the messages we send and interpret are influenced by personal factors. So this is not a complete list, by the way. These are examples: culture, values, the way we encode messages, the way we decode messages, what our attitude is, what our knowledge, feelings, gender, occupation, age, all those things make up the way we encode a message, the way we send a message. Then culture, values, the way we encode messages, the way we decode attitudes, knowledge, feelings, gender, occupation, all influence the way we understand a message. And then all of these things influence the way we encode a new message to send back to the original sender. And then that message is decoded according to all of these things, and a new message is encoded taking all of those things into consideration, and a message is sent back. You see, this one also clearly takes into account noise. So this noise over here is talking about semantic noise that might occur when we encode the message. This noise is external noise, and this noise over here is internal noise. So when we decode the message, culture, values, attitudes, knowledge, etc., might cause us to interpret the message in a way that the sender did not intend. And then obviously we encode a new message using all of these things, and that will influence the way we encode the message, which is semantic noise. So what words do we choose? We choose words the other person doesn't know. Then sending along a feedback channel. There is the possibility of external noise preventing the message going across. And then when you decode this, there might be internal noise again. I would just like to point out these examples of noise in and out. These are the places where noise could occur. Okay, they're not saying that noise will occur, they're just pointing out areas where noise can occur. So convergent models are essentially where we look at back and forth communication. So we see how communication is continuous and transactional. It goes back and forth until meaning has been negotiated. Feedback is emphasized. So we see feedback as an important part of communication. So when I send you a message, your feedback, okay, thanks, I understand, is considered a part of the communication. That is a back and forth. And both parties take on sender and receiver models. And that is what I have for you on convergent models.